Hey everybody, it's Party Elite, and we're back with some more Total War Warhammer 2 gameplay with a showcase of the Hunter and the Beast DLC. We'll be diving into the battle for the Amber Bow, playing Markus Wulfhart's quest battle in Legendary difficulty to see just how many tricks the AI has up its sleeves. The quest battle has a good showcase of quite a few of the new Empire units. Markus Wulfhart, in charge, has come with great melee and range stats, with armor sundering in both and armor piercing from range. He's got fleet-footed, sure and true, Hunter's Snare, and Executioner, providing a plethora of abilities and buffs to himself and the troops around him. We're also joined by Kalara, one of the 4 legendary hunters, and we've also got Hertwig van Hal with us, another one of the 4 hunters that Markus can obtain over the course of his campaign. These 4 legendary hunters are unfortunately not available for use in multiplayer as I'd initially hoped they might be. Archers are fairly standard affair ranged units at 350 point costs, again otherwise fairly standard affair. Huntsmen are their superior counterpart at 650 points with greater range and anti-large missile damage with a bonus versus large of 8. They can also fire while moving, stalk, and vanguard deploy, so they should allow for some fun opportunities on the battlefield. We've also got a unit of War Wagons with decent mobility and the ability to fire armor-piercing shots on the move in all directions with an AP value of 16, all for a point cost of 950. The War Wagon with mortar, meanwhile, comes in at 1100 points and has a piece of artillery in place of the rifleman, so it sacrifices the armor-piercing damage output for a higher amount of regular damage delivered at great range. Beyond that, we've got 2 unique units as well, not regiments of renown, but perhaps these are units that are acquired through a claim in the campaign. The unbreakable Carroburg Greatswords, who come in with Bathed in Blood to assist allies nearby in battle, and the Knights of Morr, who cause fear and terror while also being immune to psychology and granting that same immunity to allies within range through Grim Resolve. These 2, again, aren't available in multiplayer, but I'm sure we'll explore them and some others more when I dive into my Wulfhart Let's Play as soon as possible.
The death of innocent settlers cannot go unanswered, huntsman. These unrelenting reptile monsters must be made to pay, lest they keep coming back. Make no mistake, these cold-blooded abominations are not just mindless beasts. They are intelligent. Intelligent enough to know the meaning of vengeance. And now, with our arrows and blades, we will make them feel it!
Alright, with that heart-stirring speech out of the way, let's take a look at the situation at hand. I'm not going to go over the deployment per se, because as with quest battles, it's always a bit of a mess, but let's look at some of the objectives that, well, they're optional objectives, and they're quite interesting. Over here, if we manage to rescue the troops, they'll actually retreat back into the city, and they will provide us some assistance with a bombardment ability. It's a wind-style ability that, again, pops in from the bottom right corner, has unlimited uses in the battle, so the sooner we can rescue them, the sooner they can assist us over the course of the battle. Meanwhile, on the other side over here, if we're able to pull all of these units over this way by enough, and I think if we're able to cause enough damage over here, we actually receive further reinforcements from the docks that have been set ablaze. So they're actually just waiting for a secure path of entry, I think, and eventually they can join us, and they'll actually give us a numerical bit of support on the battlefield. Back over here, though, again, not going to go over deployment specifically, but you can see a fair number of troops on our side. We've got the War Wagon up front alongside the War Wagon with the mortars. Right behind them, we do have some of our halberdiers on the field, as well as some spears, some halberdiers off to the side here as well. We've got a couple of swordsman units here and there. These huntsmen over here will do a fair bit of damage alongside these huntsmen. They are anti-large, again, just as a reminder. And then we've got some archers back over here as well. Some more swordsmen tucked away in the trees. And then we've got the Knights of Morr, the Carroburg Greatswords, and we've got some more Reiksguard back here as well, while our contingent of heroes are all back over here, need to get into position. So not going to go specifics with the deployment, because again, we're actually fixing it right now, but let's take a look at some of those initial shots from our artillery piece, that War Wagon with a mortar on top of it, as this War Wagon pushes in as well to engage against this clump. So we get some of that initial damage in, you know, a fair bit of accuracy, as one can expect from a mortar, but we are trying to rescue that contingent over here so that, again, they can provide us us some assistance as soon as possible. You can see the War Wagon getting some initial shots in, I think firing away at the Cold One Riders over there, doing a touch of damage, nothing too crazy over there, but I just want to draw aggro, and as you can see, the enemy has split into two on that left side. A bunch of units going over there, and a couple units heading down in my way, so I'm trying to form up as quickly as possible, get my front line ready, while off to the side over here as well, we're getting the Knights of Morr pushing in for a beautiful charge into the sides of these Saurus Spears. Again, we cause fear and terror as well, so as we get this charge in, I'm hoping to get a fair bit of damage done. Artillery strikes coming down as well. In comes the charge. Great big explosion. That one's actually causing more friendly fire than anything else, I think. But in we go, and we cause a great deal of damage to health and morale, so helping that left flank already. Meanwhile, back over here, you can see we're trying to rush Wulfhart into position because we want to drop his Hunter Snare, and there it goes, right on time to prevent this Feral Stegodon from charging into our Greatswords over here, and then all of our Huntsmen and Archers will turn around and focus down on this Feral Stegodon. Again, those Huntsmen have anti-large damage from their ranged capabilities, so hoping to melt this Feral Stegodon away. It will be stuck there for, I believe, around 11 seconds or so, so getting that initial, set of volleys through, doing a lot of hurt there, down to 50%, in it goes, rampaging, but immediately we're actually able to drop down the Prey of Anathrema as well. Of course, we do have the support from one of our Hunters, Kalara, coming in with that Prey of Anathrema, and the range support continues, as back over here, we're also using the Executioner ability from Markus Wulfhart, slightly wasted actually on the Saurus Old Blood over here. Rambatan is his name. He gets hit, takes a decent bit of damage, maybe about 10% of his health, but the way Executioner actually works is it adds more damage the less health the target already has. So it's basically a bit of a finishing move, if you will. So slightly wasted perhaps, but it does a touch of damage, and you can't really fault Markus for trying to take down the Saurus Old Blood nice and early, I suppose. But as you can see, the Feral Stegodon over here is still taking a fair bit of damage. That Prey of Anathrema is about to run out, and as this is happening, and as that Feral Stegodon gives up on the fight, you can see our Knights of Morr here pulling back, hoping to get another rear charge, as we did manage to get these Saurus Spears to give up on the fight. They've started to rout, while over here you can actually see we've got a Reiksguard moving in for a charge into these red-crested skinks, as well as some of these skink cohorts, hoping to get a little bit of damage into health and morale. But you can see in goes the charge there. We have to be wary of the Razor Dawn hunting pack there as well. Of course, it can cause us some trouble. They do have armor-piercing damage output both in range and in melee, so we want to just play it a bit safe there. But the Reiksguard go bounding in through these skink cohort, tossing them back, tossing some of these red-crested skinks back as well. Again, a decent charge over here, causing a touch of damage to health and morale, and of course getting a touch of damage onto these skink skirmishers as well. But at the same time, you can see the reinforcements have actually arrived. They're pouring forth now from these burning docks. They want to come in and provide us some assistance, and of course they're basically coming in from the rear over here, so they can engage against this Feral Bastillodon perhaps with some of their halberds. They can even push in against some of these Sacred Crocsgore. That might cause me some trouble given how thinly spread I am right now. But you can see over here we managed to drop the giant little beast there. There's a quote for you. We managed to drop that beast, the Huntsman, again, proving their capabilities with their anti-large shots there. Now focusing down on the Saurus Warriors, and we eventually need to take care of the Saurus Old Blood, who managed to close the gap here. Meanwhile, over here you can see the Knights of Morr taking a bit of a risky charge into the backs of these Saurus Warriors with their shields, hoping to cause some damage, and again hoping to rescue that left contingent so they can provide us some assistance after after they've been rescued. Meanwhile, you can see our huntsmen, are firing away to try and finish off the Saurus Warriors over here, and Markus is being sent in to deal with that Saurus Old Blood, who is currently wavering. We're very close to coming out on top on that left side. Meanwhile, over here you can see we actually have our Carroburg Greatswords being sent forth alongside the Halberdiers, getting tied down by that red-crested skink chief. Tan Wendry is his name, I suppose, and in come the Sacred Crocsgore as well. So this is a dangerous situation for our Carroburg Greatswords. They are unbreakable, thankfully, so they won't be giving up anytime soon, but they are going to take a fair bit of damage. Health already down to about, I would say, approximately 50%. You can see, though, we have our War Wagon coming in to provide some assistance, firing away from a safe distance, but ultimately I realized that I might be able to use them in melee again. They aren't anti-infantry or anything, as I'd initially thought they might be before we've actually seen the stats. I thought they might have some anti-infantry capabilities, but they do not. However, I still want to experiment, and I go sending them in towards these skink skirmishers, hoping to get a decent bit of damage, and you can see the artillery fire is coming through as well, trying to eliminate that range support for the Lizardmen, and in we go with our War Wagons, again causing just a touch of damage. It is still a charge from a hefty piece of equipment, so we do cause a little bit of damage, and while we're charging through, we also get some shots off because the riflemen atop those war wagons. Obviously, they don't have to stop just because we're charging in, so they're able to get some shots in. They're able to fire while moving as well, so we do a touch of damage. We do, you know, I would say we do enough damage considering what I was expecting, and in comes, of course, the artillery support as well, which is extremely helpful in this scenario, just dropping the skink skirmisher morale even further, trying to force them away, trying to scare off that range support. But you can see on the topic of being scared off, even though they're unbreakable, I'm a little scared for my Carroburg Greatswords. I need to pull them away as all of those huntsmen are firing away at the Sacred Croxgore, forcing them back, you know, afraid of, I suppose, the anti-large capabilities, so they're pulling back, but I need to pull my own Carroburg Greatswords back as well, and you can see the War Wagon over here being pulled back as the Knights of Morr being pulled in this direction as well. We have managed to assist these units enough. You can see they're fleeing into the city over here, trying to provide us some assistance with that bombardment ability that I was mentioning earlier. Again, it's a wind-style bombardment, and you will be seeing it in action shortly, as over here, Hertwig van Hal has actually engaged in melee against some of the skink cohort over here, and back over here you can see we have the halberdiers chasing after the Sacred Croxgore, while my Reichsguard over here are trying to get away from these skink cohorts. Just want to get some cleaner charges, maybe up over here into the backs of these skink cohort. Again, finish that melee engagement as quickly as possible, if possible. So in we go, hoping to get some damage done over here, and again, damage to health and to morale will do wonders for us over here. Unfortunately, not enough, so we get stuck in melee again. But up over here, you can see the War Wagon continues to give chase alongside the Knights of Morr, and that's actually worked out quite well for us. That persistence with the War Wagon, again, able to fire with its armor-piercing damage alongside the Knights of Morr, who were able to cause fear and terror as they charged in. That has ultimately resulted in all three of these units, the two skink skirmishers, as well as the Razor-Dawn hunting pack, giving up on the fight. They were, well, they're terrified right now, and the terror is turning into routes for some of these skink skirmishers, and of course, it helps when you have a little bit of artillery support coming in as well. So good job over there, I would say, with the War Wagon and the Knights of Morr working together, working in tandem to scare these guys off, and then turning around to try and deal with those Saurus warriors as well. And you can see we've got these halberdiers being pulled back to try and help against the Feral Bastillodon, but of course I can also send my huntsmen in, and that's exactly what I'm doing, sending my huntsmen forward, sending Markus Wulfhart forward as well to try and help against the red-crested skink chief over here, while we get some shots in against the Feral Bastillodon and doing a fair bit of damage over there, focusing down on the Bastillodon. While back up over here, you can see we actually get another use of the Executioner skill, again now testing it against a large unit rather than an individual. Turning around, it's got a bit of a runway before it starts, sets up, aim, and fire, and again doing a little bit of damage. Again, it's ideally used against an individual that is already fairly badly hurt. But over here, you can actually see a large Lizardman contingent has arrived. Reinforcements have made their way onto the field, and this is the main Lizardman army. So thankfully we have our reinforcements, thankfully we haven't used up all of our ammunition, and thankfully we have also saved some of those troops that are able to come in with that bombardment support over here. I shouldn't call it a bombardment, though. It is a cannon shot that materializes seemingly out of thin air, sends this cannonball through some of the Saurus warriors over here, does a touch of damage. Not the cleanest use, but I wanted to get an early use in there. I believe it's a 30 or so second cooldown on it, can't remember off the top of my head, but it's got a pretty quick cooldown timer and unlimited uses, so I want to use it as much as possible, even if it means a flimsy shot to kick things off at the beginning there. We did a little bit of damage to those Razor-Dawn hunting packs as well. Meanwhile, over here you can see Banishment comes down on the War Wagon, trying to get that War Wagon out of there. The Flaming Skull, Flaming Face, I always forget its name, did a little bit of damage there as well, so trying to pull this War Wagon back before it gets completely eliminated. While back over here you can see this Feral Bastillodon completely taken care of by our huntsmen as well, and these huntsmen still have a fair bit of ammunition left too, so not too worried about my situation just yet, but I want to get formed up once more. You can see getting lined up over here and over here. Want to prepare for this eventual onslaught that's heading in our general direction. The crossbows over here providing us some assistance. Of course, we have no control over allied forces, so over here Ben Billings decides to charge forward as this Ancient Stegodon charges down some of his swordsmen over here. We need to focus down on that Ancient Stegodon. We also need to consider the threat of the Sacred Croxgore, and of course the Slann Mage Priest, who has joined the fray as well. You can see we've got these Pterodon riders coming towards us as well. Got to keep an eye out for them, but our huntsmen right now focusing down on the Sacred Croxgore over here. They've got the Flaming Sword of Ruin active, but we're just focusing down on them, causing so much hurt with our anti-large shots, scaring them off within moments of the engagement beginning, actually, and then we have to turn our attention to the Ancient Stegodon. We do so more or less immediately, trying to take care of that thing before it's able to charge into any of our soldiers. Doing, again, a fair bit of damage over here. Just got to get a couple of clean shots in there, and that Ancient Stegodon will be in a ton of trouble. In comes the Hunter Snare as well, holding it in place, and take a look at that morale damage and damage to health as well, melting the Ancient Stegodon within a couple of volleys. Very happy with the damage output of the Huntsmen. Meanwhile, over here you can see we've got a little bit of a problem with Rambutan, the Saurus Old Blood, pushing in towards the Knights of Morr. I've kept them waiting. I was hoping to get them in for some flanking opportunities, but unfortunately they get tied down by that Saurus Old Blood, and at the same time you can see we have some trouble over here as some of these Saurus Warriors and Saurus Spears decide to get involved as well. We send in for a charge against these Saurus Warriors, but still, I mean, these guys have survived, and they're coming in now for some flanking maneuvers, it seems like. As little health as they might have, they're still problematic. While back over here, you can see this War Wagon out of ammunition, is just kind of chilling back there, looking pretty, needs to get to work. Up front over here, meanwhile, you can see we are focusing down on this Feral Bastillodon once again, causing a fair bit of damage, using our Huntsmen to, I think, great effect, while we, of course, get a glorious cast from the enemy using banishment over there, not causing too much damage to our halberdiers, but traveling right through our huntsmen over here, I think, and yeah, causing a fair bit of hurt back over here. Unfortunately, that's going to be problematic for us. Again, I was just speaking wonders about our huntsmen, but now they're taking a fair bit of hurt. I need to be a bit more careful with them, but you can see over here they are now focusing down on the Razordon hunting pack as well, causing a fair bit of damage to health and to morale, while over here these Pterodon riders are looking for an opportunity to dive into my troops, I think. Maybe get a fair bit of damage done that way, while over here the Temple Guards dive into the Greatswords as well as the Carroburg Greatswords. I'm hoping to hold the line over here and maybe get some rear charges, perhaps, if these Knights of Morr decide to join us in the battle once more. And back here, you can see the War Wagon still doing nothing, still just chilling back there. I need to use them more effectively for sure. But you can see the Pterodon Riders decided to dive in against Markus Wulfhart. Markus Wulfhart will enjoy that engagement, I think. He's doing a fair bit of damage both to health and to morale over here. And you can see our archers and huntsmen firing away at the Temple Guards, just trying to assist our Greatswords and the Carroburg Greatswords on that left flank. Then very quickly deciding to turn around and focus instead, I think, on the Slann Mage Priest of Fire over here. Try to get rid of that magical support ASAP before it's able to do too much. Meanwhile, over here you can see another use of that bombardment as our War Wagon finally gets activated. We push it through some of these Saurus Spears, hoping to get rid of what's left of these units over here, and in comes that bombardment support, or I guess the wind support. It's a cannonball, you know, what should I call it, as it completely obliterates some of these Saurus Spears and Saurus Warriors alongside those War Wagons. Some pretty decent charges, I would say, a decent bit of damage to health and to morale as well, just eliminating that left flank aggression before it's able to close the gap there. So fairly happy with the performance there, not scaring them off, unfortunately, but I'm able to turn those War Wagons around and charge into the backs of these Temple Guards over here, again, doing a fair bit of damage, but we have to be wary of their anti-large and armor-piercing capabilities, of course, just using those War Wagon units because they've got no ammunition. What else am I going to do with them? Meanwhile, over here you can see the Knights of Morr have decided to come back into the fight. I want to try and send them into the Skink Skirmishers to get rid of that range support once and for all, but unfortunately the Knights of Morr drop their flags and they give up on the fight and they're going to leave, while over here another cast of that flaming skull, flaming face, flaming head, going through some of these huntsmen, causing a fair bit of damage. We are out of ammunition now, so engaged in melee, trying to get some damage output wherever possible, focusing down on the Razordon hunting pack over here as the Arrow of Kurnos comes through, and it's a bit of a flub shot, does a touch of damage onto some of these Skink Skirmishers and a little bit of damage on the Sacred Croxgord, but not the best of shots, I think, while the Prey of Anathrema goes down on the Sacred Croxgord, as I would like to just hold them in place. I want to buy myself some time as we are in a fair bit of trouble. Our front lines are sort of giving up. We have the allied front lines giving up on the fight as well, and meanwhile we have this flanking maneuver coming in from the Saurus Spears too, so not too happy about my situation. You can see over here our War Wagon has already taken a ton of damage, I think, because of the Temple Guards and a little bit of magical assistance as well. We are in a bit of a trouble spot over there, but Markus is able to hold the line over here alongside his Carroburg Greatswords. Hopefully they won't fall. It's quite likely they will. They're very low on health, but again, they are unbreakable, so they're holding the line. Down they go, unfortunately, but Markus now all on his own, holding that left flank, doing so quite well. He has, again, quite a few abilities that help him just hold that line. He's got that armor sundering that's helping especially, and he's got, of course, the decent melee stats that are helping tremendously. Back over here on the right flank, you can see we've got Hartvig Van Hal holding the line alongside some of these Greatswords, while once more the War Wagon gets sent through for a rear charge into the Saurus Spears, into the Razordon hunting pack, as well as the Saurus Warriors with shields, and you know what? Doing enough damage, helping us by just enough, I would say. We trigger some rampaging over here, which is not ideal, I suppose, but hey, if we can cause damage, we can cause damage. There's not much else these guys are going to be doing. The Skink Skirmishers, meanwhile, obstructed but firing away wherever possible. And so you can see I get that cannon shot coming in once more, trying to again scare these guys off, and it works quite well. We do manage to get both of these skink skirmishers to completely shatter, and in fact that is the last hurrah for the Empire's forces as everything decides to break and shatter and surrender and leave for a glorious, albeit Pyrrhic victory for the forces of Markus Wulfhart. Now again, a fine fight. However, with legendary difficulty, it proved to be somewhat challenging. I think it would be a little bit easier outside of legendary difficulty. I think it was a pretty fun quest battle. I just think it's a little bit, maybe, on the easier side. I took a couple of risks with my Knights of Morr and my War Wagons, and they seemed to pay off well enough. We took a lot of damage with some of those risks, but I think it was all fun and good. The artillery support from the town is a nice touch. I think that's a nice way to make the quest battle a bit more interesting, and I do wish the reinforcements from the dock provided us with more than just a bit of numerical support. But overall, a fun slog that showcases some of the new units and some of the legendary hunters too. Now, seeing the dinosaurs melt at the hands of the huntsmen was probably my favorite part of this entire quest battle. Once you get one of those dinosaurs sort of pinned in place with either the snare or the prey of Anathrema, and you just focus down on it with the huntsman, they just melt away. It was beautiful. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and for more Total War Warhammer 2 content, including this brand new DLC, make sure you subscribe to this channel. I'm going to be playing a Markus Wulfhart campaign as soon as possible. I want to kick that off and have a glorious time with the Vortex campaign, I think, and it'd be great if you guys wanted to join for that. Apart from that, a massive thanks goes out to all of my channel members and patrons for supporting the channel on a monthly basis, and of course, a big old thanks goes out to each and every one of you for watching. Until next time, cheers.